Well, hello everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we're going to be talking about uneducated buyers, because although car dealers seem to think that everyone is mega educated because of YouTube videos, that's not reality. So I'm going to talk about what reality is in today's video, and then I'm also going to discuss what the buying experience is like as an uneducated buyer. But before we get into this video, as always, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. And then if you want to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. Let's get into it. So first off, there's this huge misconception in the dealer world that YouTube videos like this are educating buyers way too much, and it's ruining the whole dealership world. And here's the deal, that's just not reality. And the best way for me to explain this is talking about what I saw when I first started working at a dealership 6 years ago. So I remember I first started working at a dealership, and I'm a YouTube person, so I watched a bunch of YouTube videos about car salesmen and all that kind of stuff. And I very quickly ran into videos spilling all the dealership secrets and telling people how to buy a car and all that kind of stuff. And I was really concerned because I was like, wow, there's all this information out here. These videos have, hundreds of thousands, some of them even have millions of views. That means that all these buyers that I'm going to be encountering are going to know everything about the car buying process. And I'm just going to struggle to, basically convince them of anything as a salesperson. And well, fast forward through my entire sales career, and that is the opposite of what I experienced. What I experienced is the average consumer that I encountered knew next to nothing about the car buying process. Like, they knew that they wanted to buy a vehicle and they roughly knew what their budget was, and that was about it. And then fast forward 3 more years throughout this entire YouTube filming career and me talking to literally hundreds of different salespeople, and similar results. Like, yes, there is a very small niche group of people that know the car buying experience, the whole car buying thing in and out, but it's a very small percentage of buyers. The average consumer that goes into a dealership doesn't know anything, really. And that is going to continue to be the trend into the future. No matter how many views these silly YouTube videos get, they're still just such a small demographic of people. So if you happen to watch this channel and you work at a dealership, I wouldn't lose any sleep over this stuff. But now let's kind of dive into the point of view as someone who is an inexperienced buyer, aka the average car buyer in the market. So when it comes to the point of view of a person that's not really educated in the car buying process, first off, the reason why they even dive into the car buying process is based on either a want or a need. On the need side of things, maybe their car broke down, or maybe they just need a car that basically has different features. Maybe they, didn't have a family a few years ago and now they have kids or something like that, and they need more space, whatever it may be. They basically need to get a different vehicle to meet their current needs, or replace a vehicle that just doesn't drive anymore, right? And then on the one side of things, right, maybe they just want something nicer and newer, or maybe they just want something that gives them a different driving experience than what they have. But, either of those items are going to kind of push them into the market. And so what the average consumer does after they decide that they want to get a car is they'll typically do some research online. And this is where they'll go to the main Ben Hardy channel, of course, just kidding, but also not at the same time. They'll go watch, reviews on different vehicles within the segments that they're researching into, and they'll try to, find, vehicles that match the needs that they are trying to meet. And this is where, again, there's kind of like that weird disconnect, because although a lot of people, or pretty much everyone, is researching online now before they purchase a car, that doesn't mean that they're researching the car buying process. And this is something that I find very interesting, is people will literally spend hours upon hours researching reviews on vehicles, and they'll never watch a single video about like how to get a good deal at a dealership, for example. That's just the reality of these buyers. So they find, roughly the set of vehicles that they want to purchase, and then the next thing that they'll typically do is they'll go to dealerships that have those vehicles, and they'll go and look at them in person. Now, something that most consumers actually do is they go and look at the vehicles in person when a dealership is closed, because they don't want to have to interact with salespeople. And so, if they know that dealerships are closed on a certain day, they'll go and look at the car in person, and then they'll kind of decide, oh, I like the look of this, or I don't like the look of this. And that actually, like, literally basically crosses off a bunch of vehicles off of the list of, the average buyers, just based on how the exterior looks of the vehicle, without even driving it, without even sitting in it, just looking at the outside. It's pretty interesting. But once they've done that and kind of narrowed things down even further, then the next step that you'll typically see is they'll go into the dealership when the dealership's open, and they'll test drive the different vehicles that they're looking at, or maybe it's just one particular model, and then they'll test drive it. And then at this point, most buyers are ready to buy because, again, they've already spent hours upon hours researching the different vehicles they're looking at, and they've probably been to the dealership, again, on the day off, where they've already looked at the vehicle in person, and now they're driving it, and so they're like, okay, yep, this is kind of the end. And so they typically at this point will just jump right into the car deal. So they didn't go to their credit union or bank and get a pre-approval. They probably roughly know the price of the vehicle because, again, they've watched some reviews, so the reviews have maybe mentioned the MSRP on that particular vehicle at different packages. So they have sort of an idea of the price, but they don't know what the dealer fees are supposed to be. They don't know maybe what tax title license is, and frankly, a lot of times they don't even know what the current interest rate is in the market. Again, this might sound shocking to those of you that are in this whole YouTube niche, but this is what it's like for the average person. Again, what I am getting told on a daily basis by salespeople is they'll have customers come in and they'll go through the whole car buying process, and then they'll show the customer the payment, and then the customer will be shocked and be like, why is the payment so high? Are you trying to overcharge me for the vehicle? And then they'll show, no, this is the price we have online. We aren't charging you anything crazy in the vehicle. It's because the interest rates. And they're like, wait, interest rates have increased? There are a lot of people that live under a rock that much. And so, again, for this average consumer, they basically just get directed by the dealership throughout the whole process. And so obviously for the dealership, this is not necessarily the biggest win on the planet, but it makes it a slightly bigger win because that means that they have the ability to make slightly more profit off this customer. Now, obviously everyone knows that car dealerships are all about making profit. So every single consumer is going to try to negotiate on some level throughout the car buying experience. But I think you'd be surprised with how little negotiation there is outside of the purchase price of the car itself. And so finally, at the end of this whole ordeal for the average, quote unquote, uneducated buyer, what you will typically see is that if they are financing the car, usually the dealership would have made, a little bit of money on the finance reserve side of things. And, maybe they held a little bit of rate on that customer. Typically they'll be able to convince that person to buy some financing products. And a lot of times they've also been able to make some money on the front end of the deal with maybe accessories that have been added onto the vehicle. And then also, with, actual profit on the vehicle itself. And the main reason why this is able to happen for these dealers is because this person just basically figured out roughly what vehicle they went in, and then they just basically let the dealership guide them through the rest of the process, and they trusted their master negotiating skills to get them through and get them the best possible deal. So there are obviously a few lessons to be learned from this whole situation. First off, education is everything. The more educated you are with the vehicle that you're purchasing and then with the whole car buying process, the better off that you will be. And again, like I said at the beginning of the video, you are going to be in the minority because the average car buyer just doesn't do this. They don't research YouTube videos on, how to buy a car or the car buying process or any of that. They just go into the dealership, and that's something that is going to continue into the future. And so if you can basically, go against the grain, right? You can make it so that you aren't the average car buyer. That'll put you in a situation where you will be able to save yourself quite a bit of money on different aspects of the whole car buying process. And then finally, since this channel has kind of become dedicated to talking about the car market, I want to talk about how this is going to actually affect the car market in the short term and the long term. This is, I guess, a bonus clip in the video. So as I've been, researching the trends that we've been seeing in the car market, the thing that I've noticed time and time again is no matter what is happening in the car market over a short period of time or a long period of time, it doesn't really seem to affect the average buyer as much as you would think. Now, yes, obviously, a lot of dealerships right now have brought down their prices on a lot of vehicles. I've had a lot of people reach out to me and say that, dealers that used to have vehicles priced at over MSRP now have them priced at MSRP, or sometimes even under MSRP. I just had one of my buddies that works at a dealer call me up today, and he said that last month they were charging MSRP for vehicles, and now they have everything posted online for invoice. And so there are obviously changes happening, and so this is obviously changing customer dealership dynamics with new vehicles. But with that being said, because, again, the average consumer doesn't really know all that much about the car buying process, it's actually kind of helping dealerships like weather this whole storm. Now, obviously, there is a lot of difficult stuff for dealerships to get through in the short term and in the long term, but it's just crazy to me when every single time I look at the market and look at what's happening and see that it's like, oh, it's kind of doom and gloom and things are dropping a lot, I'll then hear a story from one of the dealers where it's like, oh, yeah, guess what? This person just came and paid full stick, or this person just came and paid over MSRP. They just apparently don't know what's happening in the market. And so that's just something that's going to continue. And so I know that some people are going to get upset in the comment section below, and they're going to be like, these people are propping up the market. And it's like, they kind of are, but that's just the reality of the world that we live in. There are so many things outside of the dealership world where, because people aren't educated within that particular, business sector, they end up, quote unquote, overpaying for items, right? And that's just the reality of it. There are so many things that I'm sure that I am not educated in that I overpay for. Like I bet, like if I go and hire out a plumber or something like that to go fix something in my house, I bet that I'm paying more than I should pay because I don't know the exact going rates and the proper negotiation, all that kind of stuff associated with working with a plumber, right? I'm just using a crazy example, but you guys get the point here. So anyways, that's going to sum things up. Again, big learning lessons from this video. If you are a consumer, education is everything. And then if you're a dealer, don't lose any sleep over YouTube videos. It's not worth it. They have like this much impact, whereas the market's like that big. I'll see ya.